Wayne Newton is 83 years old and still performing several nights a week in Las Vegas. Not because he wants to, because he has to. At his peak, he was worth somewhere between $50 million and $100 million. He performed for presidents. He broke records. Guinness named him the highest-paid entertainer in 1983. Then came the bankruptcies, the lawsuits, and the loans that never got paid. By 2019, strangers were threatening to auction off his most personal belongings. His mother's handmade costumes, letters from legends, pieces of a life he spent 60 years building. How did Mr. Las Vegas fall this far? Begins on April 3, 1942, in Norfolk, Virginia. And right from the start, his life seemed to stand between two worlds. His father, Patrick, worked as an auto mechanic and carried Powhatan ancestry, while his mother, Evelyn, brought Cherokee and German roots into the family. Their heritage shaped the music Wayne would later fall in love with. But in those early years, the world around him felt fragile. Patrick was serving in the U.S. Navy during World War II, so Evelyn carried most of the weight at home, holding the family together in Roanoke, while air raid news and wartime rationing washed through the country. Those memories stayed with Wayne as he grew, especially the silence that came whenever letters stopped arriving from the Pacific, leaving his mother staring at the window for hours. As Wayne took his first steps, breathing was already a challenge. What looked like a simple wheeze soon became a warning. Doctors told his parents that his asthma could kill him if nothing changed. Every attack left him gasping while his mother hovered with trembling hands, and every visit to the clinic felt like the same verdict. If they wanted their son to live, they had to move him to a dry climate and do it soon. In the early 1950s, asthma took thousands of young lives every year, and the Newtons knew the risk was real. Simple moments like walking across a room could leave Wayne clutching his chest. Years later, even in 2007, after competing on Dancing with the Stars, he dealt with lingering breathing issues that traced back to those terrifying childhood nights. Still, something inside him reached for music long before his lungs found steady air. By 1948, at just 6 years old, Wayne was already performing with his older brother Jerry, who was 8. They called themselves the Rascals in Rhythm, and they played anywhere around Newark, Ohio, that would let 2 small boys take the stage. Wayne taught himself piano, guitar, and steel guitar with a seriousness that felt far older than his age. People noticed quickly that he carried the act, especially since Jerry often needed help tuning his instrument before every show. The boys played in smoky bars where adults shouted over whiskey glasses, while Wayne stood on stage earning money to help the family survive. It was a strange childhood, but it was theirs. Then came 1952, the year everything turned urgent. Wayne was 10 when the doctors told his parents the final truth. If they stayed in Ohio, they might not have a son much longer. So they packed their belongings, left behind every familiar room and every friend, and drove across the country to Phoenix. The desert air felt harsh at first, but within weeks, Wayne was breathing more easily than he ever had. Even while adjusting to the heat, he and Jerry searched for new places to perform, almost as if rebuilding their act was the only way to feel grounded. The family had taken a gamble, and little by little, it was paying off. Not long after, their lives changed again when they auditioned for the Lou King Rangers talent show on KPHO. They won, and Wayne, still only 10, became a local star. The Lou King Show had once aired on more than 400 radio stations, and now the television version reached homes across Arizona. It had launched the careers of Marty Robbins and Tanya Tucker, and it was becoming clear that Wayne was next. He performed so often that by 15, he had his own local TV program, appearing 6 days a week and building a fan base that filled Phoenix theaters. The kid who had nearly died from asthma was now singing with a strength that stunned audiences. Those early successes opened even bigger doors. Wayne and Jerry performed on the Grand Ole Opry's traveling shows and appeared on ABC's Ozark Jubilee with Red Foley. They even performed for President Dwight D. Eisenhower, and Wayne later said he never forgot the sight of a world leader smiling at him from the audience. Yet even with these incredible moments, they faced rejection when they auditioned for Ted Mack's original Amateur Hour. That setback stung, but it didn't stop them. In 1958, as Wayne reached the end of his junior year at North High School, a Las Vegas booking agent saw them on television and decided they were ready for something bigger. The Fremont Hotel wanted an audition. The brothers drove to Nevada, unaware that their entire lives were about to change. They stepped on stage at the Fremont on May 16, 1959, for what was supposed to be a 2-week engagement. Wayne was 15, still technically in school, still catching his breath from years of asthma battles. Yet within days, the casino realized they had something rare. Their contract stretched from 2 weeks into 1 year, then 2, then 3, until suddenly it had become 5 full years. Their schedule was almost unbelievable. 6 shows every night, 6 nights every week, 36 shows each week. The stage itself revolved, so they had no breaks. When their cue arrived, the platform turned, and Wayne was instantly under the lights again. He faced crowds that often expected acts with 6 or 8 musicians. Instead, they got 2 brothers pouring every ounce of their energy into every show. That pace forced Wayne to choose between school and the career forming in front of him. In 1959, he left North High School without graduating and never looked back. Years later, he said the stamina required for those grueling Vegas shows started forming back in Virginia, when asthma forced him to fight for every breath. His body learned early that quitting wasn't an option. Night after night, Wayne discovered the secret that would define his career. His gift wasn't just hitting notes. It was reading the room, feeling the mood, and shaping the music to fit the crowd. He built each show from the audience outward, choosing stories, tempos, and melodies based on their energy. It made every performance feel intimate, even if the room was filled with hundreds of people. Over time, he added more and more instruments to his act, until he was playing as many as 13 on stage, even though he never learned to read sheet music. This ability to connect, adjust, and reinvent made him stand alongside Frank Sinatra and Elvis Presley as one of the top entertainers of the century. By the time he reached 20, Wayne had already performed more than 9,000 shows. His lungs had once struggled to carry him across a room, yet now he carried entire audiences with him. That's when fate placed him in front of Jackie Gleason in 1962. Wayne sang Danny Boy during a private performance in Phoenix, and Gleason heard something that everyone else had overlooked. He told Wayne not to appear on any other television program before coming on to Gleason's variety show. That promise turned into a slow burn of anticipation, and on September 29, 1962, Wayne made his debut on The Jackie Gleason Show. Millions watched. Gleason brought him back again and again, letting him appear 12 times over the next 2 years. Each appearance deepened his presence in American homes. Gleason didn't stop there. He arranged for Wayne to perform at the Copacabana in New York, a room where stars like Bobby Darin had set attendance records. Standing on that stage placed Wayne in front of the East Coast critics and producers who shaped careers. During one of these nights, Bobby Darin watched him perform and made a decision that would alter music history. He gave Wayne a song he had planned to record for himself, Danke Schoen. He even changed the arrangement to fit Wayne's voice. Wayne recorded it on May 6, 1963, at Western Recorders in Hollywood. He was only 21. The single reached number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100, sold more than 1 million copies. and became his signature song. Years later, Ferris Bueller's Day Off brought the song roaring back into pop culture, and a new generation discovered his voice. More hits followed. In 1965, his version of Red Roses for a Blue Lady reached number 23 on the Hot 100 and number 4 on the Easy Listening chart, competing against two other charting versions of the same song. Summer Wind reached bar 78 before Frank Sinatra recorded his own version the following year. In 1972, Daddy Don't You Walk So Fast became the biggest hit of Wayne's recording career, peaking at number 4 on the Hot 100 and selling more than 1 million copies. It also reached number 1 on the Cashbox chart on August 5, 1972. As his star rose, so did his value. In 1970, he signed a groundbreaking contract with Suma Corporation, earning between $8 million and $8.5 million per year for more than 500 shows. That meant $16,000 to $17,000 per show, more than what Sinatra or Presley made at the time. Wayne officially became Mr. Las Vegas. By the 1980s, his earnings soared to $25 million per year. He performed 300 to 400 shows annually, often grossing $200,000 to $300,000 in a single week. Guinness World Records named him the highest-paid entertainer in 1983, confirming what Las Vegas already knew. No one matched his work ethic or his draw. More than 25,000 Vegas shows later, he stood as an icon who had performed for more than 40 million people. His name adorned airport roads, city medals, and even state honors. He recorded 165 albums and became a symbol of Las Vegas culture itself. By 1990, his net worth reached somewhere between $50 million and $100 million, equal to roughly $105 million to $159 million today. He owned real estate, co-owned the Aladdin Hotel from 1980 to 1982, and built his legendary 39.5-acre estate, Casa de Shenandoah. But by 1992, bankruptcy hit him with $20 million in debt, and he had to rebuild from the ground up. He did exactly that, returning to the stage with the same determination he had learned as a boy fighting asthma in Virginia. In early February 1980, Wayne Newton began receiving death threats that did not sound random or careless. They were specific. They came to his hotel dressing room. They came to his home. 5 separate threats in total. Then one call crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. The caller knew details about Newton's 4-year-old daughter, Erin, that no stranger should know. He described her daily routine. He named the exact gait she used when leaving school. He threatened to kidnap her, rape her, kill her, and send parts of her body back to Newton in a box. Newton's wife overheard the call. At that moment, fear took over everything. These threats followed a confrontation at the Frontier Hotel in Las Vegas, after Newton's business manager, Mark Moreno, cut off a $135,000 line of credit to Ronald Delpit, who ran a local promotional tabloid. Newton went to the police, desperate for help, but was told nothing could be done unless an actual attempt occurred. He went home knowing someone was watching his child. With nowhere else to turn, Newton reached out to the only man he knew who had ever been to prison. Guido Penosi was 51 years old and lived in Beverly Hills. Newton had met him back in 1963 while performing at the Copacabana in New York City. Over the years, their contact stayed casual. A dinner here, a dinner there. Nothing that felt dangerous at the time. When Newton explained the threats against his daughter, Penosi listened carefully. He then gave Newton the phone number of his cousin in Connecticut, Frank Piccolo, and stayed on the line during the call. After the threats stopped, Penosi even traveled to Las Vegas and visited Newton in his dressing room, where Newton thanked him. What Newton did not fully understand then was that authorities later identified Penosi as connected to the Gambino crime family. Months later, the story exploded in public. On October 6, 1980, NBC Nightly News aired a 3-minute investigative report titled Wayne Newton and the Law. Nearly 10,000 viewers across 213 cities watched as anchor John Chancellor introduced a segment reported by Brian Ross. The broadcast implied that Newton financed his $85,000 purchase of the Aladdin Hotel using mob money, and that organized crime figures secretly owned part of the resort. The timing was brutal. Just weeks earlier, in September 1980, the Nevada Gaming Commission had approved Newton's purchase after the Aladdin had been shut down for 3 months. The report mentioned that Newton had gone to Ponosi for help with a problem, but left out the fact that the problem involved death threats against his child. Even worse, NBC stated that Frank Piccolo had been overheard on wiretaps bragging about gaining an interest in the Aladdin for helping Newton. NBC pushed further. The network suggested Newton had not been truthful with gaming investigators about his relationship with Ponosi and Piccolo. FBI wiretaps were cited, capturing conversations where Newton's name came up among members of the Gambino family. The tapes revealed that Piccolo had helped arrange for threats against Newton to stop, and that organized crime figures expected to earn something in return. NBC aired follow-up broadcasts in November 1980 and April 1981, reporting that Newton had appeared before a federal grand jury in Connecticut and would testify against Ponosi and Piccolo. Instead of relief, Newton found himself facing new threats all over again. On April 10, 1981, Newton struck back. He filed a defamation lawsuit in Las Vegas federal court, seeking more than $10,000 in damages. The suit named NBC RCA Corporation, NBC President Fred Silverman, Brian Ross, Ira Silverman, John Chancellor, Paul Greenberg, and NBC News President William Jack Small. The allegations were explosive. Newton claimed Silverman had conspired with Tonight Show host Johnny Carson to damage his reputation. Carson had previously tried to buy the Aladdin himself and publicly joked about losing the deal. Newton's attorney later pointed out that Carson accounted for roughly 20% of NBC's pre-tax profits at the time. The case dragged on for years and finally went to trial in October 1986. For 8 exhausting weeks, testimony unfolded in Las Vegas federal court. Gaming agent Dennis Balmer testified that he believed Newton had not told investigators the full truth about Ponosi and Piccolo. At the same time, Balmer confirmed that Newton's Aladdin financing came from legitimate banking sources, not mob money. He admitted he had written a report raising concerns about Newton's contacts, but that his superiors ordered those concerns removed because the state wanted the Aladdin reopened after being closed for 18 months. After 31 days of testimony, the jury deliberated. On December 18, 1986, the verdict stunned the courtroom. After 6 days of deliberation, the jury awarded Newton $19,200,000. The breakdown was devastating for NBC. $5,000 in punitive damages, $5,000 for loss of reputation, $7,900,000 for loss of income, $146,150 for future income loss, $225,000 for physical and mental suffering. The jury concluded NBC knew the broadcasts were false and acted with malice. Newton smiled briefly afterward, but said nothing. NBC immediately announced it would appeal. During the trial, Newton testified about the personal cost. He said the stress caused him to develop an ulcer. At the time, he was earning roughly $1,000 per month, performing 2 shows a night, 7 nights a week, for 40 weeks a year. After the broadcasts, opportunities collapsed. Movie offers disappeared. Television deals dried up. After the April 1981 broadcast, he said new death threats began again. NBC argued his continued earnings proved no harm was done. The jury did not agree. Behind the scenes, the government pursued its own case. On June 12, 1981, federal prosecutors indicted Ponosi and Piccolo for conspiracy to extort Newton and others. The theory was simple. After stopping the threats, Piccolo expected compensation. He was killed before trial on September 19, 1981, shot in a Bridgeport, Connecticut telephone booth, in what police called a gangland execution. Penossi was tried twice and acquitted both times in 1982. Newton testified each time. While all of this unfolded, Newton was building a private kingdom in the desert. He bought 5 acres in Paradise, Nevada, in 1966 at age 24 and slowly turned it into Casa de Shenandoah. By the late 1970s, it spanned nearly 40 acres with stables, ponds, oak trees, and a white mansion completed in 1978. At its peak, the estate was valued between $50,000 and $70,000. Inside were priceless artifacts, a handwritten Elvis Presley note purchased in 1991 for $13,200, a gold microphone from Frank Sinatra, Jack Benny's Stradivarius violin, a desk once owned by Franklin D. Roosevelt. Outside were 120 Arabian horses, exotic birds, African penguins, wallabies, sloths, and peacocks that terrorized neighbors. The money did not last. In August 1992, Newton filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy with nearly $20,000 in debt, despite earning $250,000 per week. Creditors lined up, banks, the IRS, law firms. Foreclosure notices arrived. Sotheby's receipts later revealed lavish spending during bankruptcy, including $163,000 in auction purchases. Then came the strangest chapter of all. In May 1995, DEA agents seized 17 famous paintings during a cocaine sting. Receipts showed several Renoirs were purchased through Newton's Sotheby's account. Newton testified they belonged to a Texas friend. Years later, when the DEA prepared to auction the art, Newton suddenly claimed ownership. Then he changed his story again. Forms were sent, deadlines missed, explanations piled up. The case faded without a clean ending. Wayne Newton's troubles did not explode all at once. They stacked up slowly, then all at the same time. His close friendship with billionaire NASCAR mogul O. Bruton Smith quietly turned into a financial trap that followed him for years. Back in 2006, Newton borrowed $3.75 million. A year later, the loan was adjusted to $3.35 million and secured against everything he loved most: his 38-acre Casa de Shenandoah estate and a Fokker F-28 aircraft worth more than $2 million. Newton assured Smith the loan would never become his problem. He said he would sell personal assets and called Smith's guarantee a simple formality. When the loan came due on May 30, 2009, nothing was paid. By October, Smith had bought the delinquent loan from Bank of America. Demand notices followed in November, notices Newton would not even acknowledge. On February 9, 2010, Smith filed a foreclosure lawsuit in Clark County. He accused Newton of fraud and said Newton never planned to sell anything at all. That same month, another blow landed. Sheriff's deputies showed up at Casa de Shenandoah to collect more than $500,000 owed to Newton's former pilot, Monty Ward. The debt started as a $400,000 judgment for unpaid wages and grew to $501,388 by February 2010, climbing by more than $125 every single day. The deputies were turned away. The timing could not have been worse. Newton was already fighting the IRS over $1.8 million in back taxes and penalties tied to the years 1997 through 2000. The pilot judgment went back to court, adding another weight to an already collapsing financial structure. By June 2010, the pressure forced a massive decision. Newton sold Casa de Shenandoah for $18.7 million plus another $10 million for land across the street, bringing the total close to $28.7 million. The buyer was CSD LLC, mostly owned by Texas billionaires Lacey and Dorothy Harbour. Newton kept a 20% stake. The vision was grand. The ranch would become a Las Vegas attraction, a Western version of Graceland filled with memorabilia, exotic cars, private planes, Arabian horses, and artifacts from 5 decades on stage. CSD and its partners poured between $50 million and $60 million into the dream. A $2 million home was planned for Newton's family on the property. The opening was scheduled for late 2011. Everything looked saved. It fell apart fast. In May 2012, CSD sued to evict Newton. Days later, a judge granted Newton a restraining order requiring CSD executive Stephen Kennedy to stay 50 feet away from the family. Behind the scenes, the accusations were ugly. CSD claimed the estate was in terrible condition when they bought it. They described piles of horse manure towering 6 feet high, stables soaked in urine fumes so strong workers could barely breathe, and conditions they said were unfit even for animals. They claimed Newton allowed his 55 Arabian horses to live in filth. They also alleged large dogs roamed freely, biting workers more than a dozen times. Newton denied it all. The lawsuit then took an even darker turn. CSD accused Newton of harassment toward a young equine manager and claimed his behavior drove her away. They said workers climbed onto cars and into trees to escape dogs they described as vicious. They accused Newton of taking $19.5 million with no intention of ever leaving the mansion or turning over the memorabilia needed for the museum. Newton's attorney called the accusations outrageous and said CSD's own mismanagement, spending, and permit failures were the real reason the project stalled. By October 2012, the dream was officially dead. CSD filed for bankruptcy and told the court the project would never generate revenue. The company was down to its last $400. The Harbor family refused to spend another dollar. Bankruptcy papers valued Casa de Shenandoah at $50.8 million. Lawyers described the situation as a bitter business divorce, filled with threats and fear. After months of negotiations, a settlement finally came together. In April 2013, a bankruptcy judge approved a confidential agreement. In June 2013, Wayne Newton and his family walked out of Casa de Shenandoah for the last time. He had bought it in the late 1960s and spent 45 years filling it with animals, memories, and pieces of his life. The settlement left CSD free of debt and ready to operate tours. For Newton, it meant losing the place that defined his identity for nearly half a century. The final blow came years later. On July 22, 2019, Casa de Shenandoah sold for just $5.56 million. That price marked a collapse of more than 92% from its original $70 million listing. The land that once symbolized power and permanence sold for less than the money poured into renovations alone. The buyer hid behind an anonymous company called Smoke Tree LLC. Newton was furious. Earlier that year, he had offered $6 million to buy the estate back. His bid was higher. It did not matter. Someone else took it, and he did not even know who. That anonymity made everything worse. Newton insisted the sale covered land and buildings only, not his personal belongings. Inside the property were his bronzed baby shoes, his wife's wedding dress, costumes sewn by his mother, handwritten notes from Elvis Presley, a microphone from Frank Sinatra, Jack Benny's violin, Jackie Gleason's pool cue, Bobby Darin's bow tie, and Nat King Cole's watch. To Newton, these were not collectibles. They were his life. Smoke Tree claimed it bought everything left on the property. If it stayed there, they said it belonged to them. The idea that his entire history could be auctioned terrified him. In August 2019, Newton sued. He asked the court to stop Smoke Tree from touching anything. In February 2020, a judge ruled that Smoke Tree could not move, sell, or dispose of the items while the case continued. The judge said Newton could still prevail. It was not a final victory, but it stopped the nightmare. Newton looked relieved and exhausted all at once. Today, the story ends in a strange place. Wayne Newton is 83 years old and still performing several nights a week in Las Vegas. He has performed more than 30,000 shows and entertained over 40 million people live. He once earned $25 million a year. He once filed bankruptcy with $20 million in debt. He rebuilt his net worth to around $50 million. Yet he cannot stop working. Legal battles, past loans, failed deals, and a lifetime of spending made sure of that.